Hey guys, Mike here, back in the aquarium lab. I just got done doing a bunch of water changes on all of my tanks, but we're actually about to leave and head back over to my buddy's house to do some really fun stuff. You might remember from that previous video when we went over to my friend's house to, change his tank up a little bit and slap on that new HOB filter. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. It'll be a good preface for what we're doing today, but today, we're heading over there with a ton of Dragonstone. Not actually a ton, but pretty close to like 70 pounds of this stuff. So I'm super excited. Dragonstone is gotta be one of my new favorite aquascaping tools. If you haven't checked it out before or haven't had an opportunity to use it yourself, I'll put a link down in the description for like a little sample size of it, I guess. I think it's a good starting point, but if you seriously wanna buy a lot of Dragonstone online in particular, you're gonna need to do a lot of research because this stuff is spendy. Make sure you check out places like eBay. There's a few different sellers there, and just make sure you don't pay too much for the stuff because it'll cost you. I was actually super lucky to find some locally. My local fish store doesn't typically get this stuff in, but over the course of the last few months, there's been a few shipments of this stuff. And so what I did was, I bought a little bit, I used it in one of the tanks that I have set up, and then the second time that it came in, I went in, got it for a really good deal, and bought as much of it as I could because this stuff is awesome. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and grab the rocks, we're gonna head over there, rescape the tank, and talk a lot more about Dragonstone. Okay guys, so here we are. I decided not to vlog this time around because this time I wasn't alone, and I wanted to make sure that I got all the important points across in this video. I'll be summing up what I think the biggest pros and cons of Dragonstone are after we get through talking about each one a little bit more specifically, and we get this tank looking a little bit better. With that being said, here we have a look at my friend's tank. Just a reminder, the pH, total dissolved solids, and water hardness are all pretty high in this tank because they're on well water out here, and I have a feeling that that's why this tank isn't doing as well as it could be. I'm working on fixing those parameters, but I'll save that talk for another video. Today, we're just gonna fix the scape, and we're gonna do so with a ton of Dragonstone, like I mentioned earlier. We're also gonna add in some more Eco Complete and some black fluorite sand to even out the substrate. And we have some dwarf sage clumps here that I'll break up a little bit later and add once the hardscape is redone. Now, if you're new to aquariums and or aquascaping, this Dragonstone is super popular, and it's in a ton of award-winning aquascapes. Dragonstone is basically a hardened clay, and thus it has some different properties compared to, I guess, traditional rocks that you might be more used to using in your aquarium. It has a beautiful color once it's submerged, which we'll see a little bit later on, and it obviously has a ton of character. All the holes and sharp edges it has makes it truly an amazing tool when it comes to aquascaping. It's also really easy to break. You'll see an example of that here in a little bit, so you're gonna need to be extra careful when you handle this stuff. On top of this, and probably the biggest issue that I have with Dragonstone, and I'm sure you guys do too, if you know a lot about it, is that it can be super expensive. This makes its use in larger tanks pretty difficult for a lot of people, including myself. If you go online to find this stuff, like a lot of people are forced to do, you're looking at a retail price ranging from $4, and I've even seen upwards of $8 per pound. Okay, that is pretty damn expensive. If you're scaping a nano tank or, something like a 10 to 20 gallon aquarium, you can get away with not spending a ton, but if you really want an aquascape to pop and flow, it's gonna hurt your wallet for sure. So what we're looking at here in this box is 51 pounds of Dragonstone. And actually, I ended up going back and getting an additional 14 pounds, so this amount, at let's say $5 a pound, would have cost me about $325 online, not including shipping. But I would have been looking at probably around $350 total, if not more. So you could see just how crazy this could get if you wanted it to scape, like a 40-gallon tank like this, or a 55 or bigger. It would cost a ton of money. Luckily for me, my local fish store had some in, and I literally bought all of the good pieces they had and got away with it for about $2 per pound. I always try and spend the least amount of money as possible when it comes to hardscape and substrate for my tanks, but sometimes you just have to do it. If anybody has a good resource for where to find inexpensive dragonstone, or any aquascaping rocks for that matter, please leave it in the comments below. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, including myself, that would really appreciate it. My buddy definitely isn't going to hold on to this rock forever, that's for sure. I just had the rock with no place to put it in my own tank, so I thought, why not put it and use it here in the meantime? So the first thing that we need to do before we start adding the dragonstone to the tank is rinse it off really good. How much you need to rinse it is really going to depend on where it comes from. I'm sure that a lot of places online do some sort of pre-rinsing to make sure it's not as muddy as the pieces that I got are, but this stuff is totally filled with mud and clay. To make matters worse, there's so many little nooks and crannies within each piece that it takes a long time to get everything out. In my case, a lot of the pieces, especially the larger ones, have edges that are really easily sloughed off by just grabbing them in the wrong way. Based on this, I bet if these specific pieces would have been shipped to me, they would have been pretty crumbled up, even if they were individually wrapped in bubble wrap. With that being said, having a bunch of small pieces can also be really good for your scape. I went out of my way to get smaller pieces and even what would be considered just rubble for use in the scape. You'll see what I mean here in a sec. So with everything washed down really good, I bring the pieces back inside and get working on the tank. I didn't really film much of this part because the tank ended up getting super cloudy after we added in the new substrate, so let's just fast forward and take a look at the tank the next day. So here we have the final layout. So far so good in my opinion. I'm of course a little biased here, so let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm always trying to improve my aquascaping skills and your input is always appreciated. So here we can see I went with the larger stones over on the left and pushed them fairly close to the front of the tank. I did this so I could create a sense of depth that's exaggerated by the right side, which is pushed back, and the addition of this little path here that runs through the middle. I used up all the little pieces and the rubble in the front of the larger pieces to give things a little bit more character, and I think it ties in well with the dwarf sage that I also placed here in the front, sort of highlighting each side of the tank. I really need to get some more plants in here. I think that having some taller green stuff like, some sort of high grow would be really nice in the back. But honestly, I don't think I would really hate this layout too much if it just had a really nice dwarf sage carpet in it. Maybe glue some moss here and there to some of the rocks and call it good. It's really sort of a minimalist scape, and I don't hate it. The scape is also really nice for the Pictus catfish that's in here. He didn't really have very many spots to hide in the previous layout, and now he's got some pretty cool caves that he likes, and you can see him a lot better too. So the next time that we come back to this tank, we'll be bringing some CO2 stuff and probably some new fish and maybe even some new plants for the background. But who knows? Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you learned something new about dragonstone and maybe I got you interested in trying something new. If you're new to the channel, think about subscribing. If you liked the video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.